Hello YouTube and fellow DC Comic fans, I'm Kelly One Shot, and today we're going to talk about Justice League number 22 from DC Comics, written by James Tynion IV, with artwork by Francis Manapau. Okay, so we start this issue off inside of the base of operations of the Legion of Doom, where we actually see Perpetua, and she's kind of like stirring and reawakening from her nightmare as she gains more powers. We then actually go over to the fight that's happening between Mara, Starman, Jarro against Mr. Mistoputius, as Mr. Mistoputius is kind of erasing all of reality and all of existence in our plane of existence. We then see that it's actually the Legion of Doom, which is Lex Luthor, Brainiac, Cheetah, Gorilla Grodd with the Turtle Baby, and Sinestro, and they're actually here to stop Mr. Mistoputius. They use the Still Force to stop his attack, but that can only hold on for so long, so Lex actually opens up the box that we seen earlier, and it is, in fact, Batmite, who is another fifth dimensional imp, and he's also Batman's #1 fan, and he's here to save the day. This fight's going to be awesome between these two imps of Mr. Mistoputius and Batmite. Can't wait to see that happen. That doesn't happen in this issue, unfortunately, but it's awesome to see, which I believe is the Rebirth first appearance of Batmite, so that's pretty cool. We then actually go back to the Legion of Doom's base of operations, where we see Perpetua, and she has been fully restored as far as her body and her mind, but she then realizes that her great creation, her beautiful universe, it is broken, and her children are actually destroying it and making it worse, according to her perspective. We then actually go back 20 billion years ago in the 6th dimension, where we see Perpetua creating our multiverse within her very hands, and then she actually creates the first 3 beings, which are 3 brothers that we know as the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and the World Forger. And she has created each of these 3 children to safeguard the different realms that she used to create our multiverse. And there's 3 different realms that she used to create our multiverse, and that is, she used the dark matter, which is rich of potential. She used positive matter, which is firm and consistent. And she used antimatter, which is all destroying and corrosive. And each one of these brothers are designed with a task to handle each one of these different properties. We actually see that the Anti-Monitor asks his mother, like, what purpose does a multiverse serve? And she says that she can't speak into its purpose, though she will say that she hopes to please the source of her power. And she hopes to make something dynamic, beautiful, and striking. Something that's truly unique. So she does reference here the source, which I'm thinking is going to be something that we're going to see further down the line. Maybe a greater cosmic being. Maybe it's going to be something that we've seen as like the Monitor, who created the other 2 monitors in the past versions of these stories. Who knows? But we actually see that the World Forger is tasked with creating worlds within the multiverse and populating all that is and all that ever will be. He handles pretty much most of creation, and he's responsible for life. Well, no, he's responsible for birth. And then we actually see the Monitor, and he is tasked essentially with monitoring the universes that rise into creation, and he's kind of like the safeguard who protects their development and prevents any crisis events that might arise between them. And then the Anti-Monitor is pretty much the opposite of the Anti-Monitor, or of the Monitor, and his purpose is also to guard the boundaries of creation, keeping them free of life. So he's pretty much like a safeguard to protect our multiverse from outside multiverses. So these 3 forces represent, like I said, birth, which is the World Forger, life, which is the Monitor, and death, which is the Anti-Monitor, obviously. And I actually think that Perpetua here represents rebirth, as she's a new character, but she actually seems to be older than these other characters. She also has beings that are greater than her and on her level, as she's mentioned throughout the course of this Justice League run. So that's pretty interesting. And then she's also being reborn within this Justice League run, and it's DC Rebirth, so I'm kind of deeming her to be the 4th, which is Rebirth. She then talks about how the universe and the multiverse will kind of bloom and blossom, and all of life will populate it, and it'll be full of vibrant life. And then she says to her children that creatures will strike a powerful chord of emotion even within all of her children, and that she has woven this universe with the 7 energies that were entrusted to her. One of such is a full rainbow of vibrant spectrums that she promises will make them feel many different feelings. So they're basically talking about the emotional spectrum, so that's pretty cool because it's one of the 7 properties, as well as the Speed Force and several other properties that she uses to create these multiverses. We then see that the Monitor actually asks his mother. He says that he understands his purpose, but he asks her if her purpose is not now fulfilled, as she's responsible for the act of creation. And he says that the multiverse is set on a course towards complex life and that the system is complete. So what purpose will Perpetua serve in the cosmos? And she says that she will see to it that all of her children live. We then actually go to our Prime universe 5 billion years after that event, where we see that the Monitor is talking to his 2 brothers, and he's bringing it up to the World Forger that something peculiar has happened, and he shows them this creation, and he asks the World Forger, did you make this creation? And the World Forger says that he hasn't seen it, and it has not been through his forge, so this is new to him. And he then mentions that he created a pet of sorts to consume all of the universes that fall into decay, and it's pretty cute because then he kind of holds in his hand Barbados, which is his pet dragon, who is responsible for cleaning up the dead universes and the universes that aren't going to make it in the worlds that are in the dark multiverse. Barbados is actually the prime villain for DC's Dark Knight Metal, which led directly into this Snyder run of Justice League, the Snyder / James Tynion run of Justice League, and he was responsible, well, he ended up being responsible for the destruction of the Source Wall, which, like I said, set forward the events of this particular story. So the Monitor is talking about this new creation that he found, and that it's in the center of the multiverse here, and that it's Earth. And he says that there's all this complex life here, and that it's interesting. He actually then visits Earth, where he sees that Perpetua is monitoring these beings that look like Martians for the most part. She's kind of like breeding them and watching their growth and evolving them into something. And she says that she searched all the universe for beings that are rich with potential, that if harnessed correctly, she can make something greater than. So she talks about like merging these different creatures together and kind of like watching their growth by like different planets and crossbreeding and things like that. The Monitor is kind of like confused by all of this stuff because he's wondering why his mother is doing this, and he even says like, what purpose do you have for warriors? And she says, well, you've seen civilizations in war, and you've seen them rise and fall, so you know the importance of war. But then he says that he's curious because he spied into the greater omniverse beyond our multiverse, and he observed something that he thought was strange in the neighboring universes. And she tells him that this is an overstep of his powers, and that he should know his place within the multiverse, and that it's a sin to reach beyond what he's meant to know, so he should speak carefully now. He then says that he only wanted to serve his function, and so he was trying to stop any potential crises, so he deemed that this was necessary. And he then tells her that, like, she told them that other beings in the other multiverses created those multiverses, but when he spied into there, he realized that these neighboring multiverses don't have any beings left that are like her, which implies that either they all died or they went on to create other multiverses. So why is she still here, and why is she seemingly preparing for some sort of resistance, and why is she creating these beings that will live on to fight forever? And what's going on here? He understands the conflicts of war, and he understands that they're mostly bred out of fear and misunderstanding, so he's wondering what has frightened her that would make her act. And he realizes that he sees that she's preparing for some sort of cosmic judgment here, and that she has altered the core of creation into something that it's not meant to become. And to him, this implies that she knows that her actions will be judged poorly, and she's trying to fight back against this. Perpetua gets instantly mad at this, and she says that she's created these beings that are full of potential for destruction, and she says that the judges of the source, so now she's saying that there's judges of the source, which to me adds in another potential character, either a character or a group of characters rather, because it's the judges of the source, and that they want these beings to achieve harmony, but what they really want is to hold these beings back and to reach for some sort of false justice instead of ascending to something better than that. And she says that her beings are beautiful and that the judges of the source would deem them unworthy, and that they would pick apart her children and watch them die. And she says, "Is this what you want? Do you want your mother to die?" And the monitor tells him that he's sorry, but she's asking him to risk infinite lives on the notion that she can overcome cosmic judgment. She gets super angry about this, and she says, "Why should I die while those damn fools live on for eternity?" So it does imply that her role has been fulfilled and she's supposed to die, as far as the source and the cosmic source and her purpose. So this enrages her. She gets her creatures to attack the monitor. We then obviously go 200,000 years after that to the Promethean galaxy, where we see the Anti-Monitor and all that stuff, the World Forger and the Monitor, and they're all together, and they're kind of tuning the Anti-Monitor's cosmic tuning fork, and they're trying to broadcast a signal out beyond our multiverse to reach the judges of the source, so that way they can warn them and tell them what their mother is doing and how she's trying to alter the design, and that they don't want to burn alongside her when the final judgment comes and when the judges of the source get here. And so they say, "Please hear us." And then all of a sudden Perpetua shows up and she says, "I hear your treachery." And she, with her beings who are now 200,000 years more evolved, start to attack the three brothers, and they're ready for it. They're trying to fight, but they're getting overwhelmed. Then there's this loud screech sound, and even her monsters are scared, and they talk about the abomination, and then they know that something is coming from beyond. They have answered their call. Then we see this big, huge black bird with this like white energy around him. Maybe it's one of the judges of the source. They don't exactly tell us. It kind of looks like something that Raven would create, honestly. But it says that, "Perpetua, you have defied your function, that you twist the scales of judgment towards selfish gain and doom, and that this multiverse will be set right, and you will be forced to watch as it grows without your guidance." And Perpetua argues against this. She tries to say that, you can tell your masters that I will escape. Tell them I will come to the end of the void and rip them limb from limb, and that they cannot hold her forever. She tries to resist. She screams, but the bird tells her, "No, this wall, the source wall, will be your prison for trying to go against us and harness this power selfishly, and that when it all ends, you will face the final judgment of the source." So this story is about the source wall, and they keep directly referencing the source as if it's a being or something. So I'm interested to see that, and it's not the bird, obviously, because the bird referenced the source itself. Then we see the three brothers and the rapture closes, and then we see the creation of the source wall, which is designed to imprison Perpetua behind it, but it also seals our universe off, our multiverse off, from the other greater omniverse, and then that our universe is going to be reset. This is the first crisis here that is happening before us, and our universe is going to be set right without the guidance or manipulation of Perpetua. So the World Forger knows that he needs to get back to his forge, create new worlds, and kind of design the universe as we're seeing him do in this six-dimensional storyline to begin with. So he's going to create the universe that becomes the DC proper universe that we've been following after this first crisis, which is a retcon event. The Monitor's kind of pissed off about this because he asked his brother, the Monitor, if he knew that this would happen, that the source wall would be formed and that our multiverse would be closed off from the greater omniverse. And the Monitor tells him that he suspected that this could happen, but soon they'll all be reformed and reborn, and they'll be the Anti-Monitor will be placed on Quaid, and he'll be placed on Oa, which is kind of how they set up Crisis on Infinite Earths, and that they will all kind of keep watch for the rise of Perpetua. And the Anti-Monitor is pissed off about this because it's essentially our universe being closed off, our multiverse being closed off from the greater omniverse, says that it renders the function of his domain obsolete. The antimatter universe was meant to contain the rest from the overvoid, and that the Monitor has ensured that the Anti-Monitor will oversee a wasteland, while the Monitor oversees an ocean of infinite worlds rising and falling. And the Monitor tells him that this was the only way that judgment awaits us all in the new reality that's gonna come. The Anti-Monitor is like, "Judgment be damned. I will make you pay for this. I will strike down infinite worlds just to crush your head in my hands, and he'll gather whatever knowledge it takes. If it takes him 1 billion years, it will be done. So that kind of like retcons in another motivation for the Anti-Monitor to start the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths, which resulted in the death of Barry Allen and Supergirl, amongst others. But those were the two big notable ones. We then actually go to the Hall of Doom now, where they talk about the first crisis and how it would spur another and another, and that the multiverse would become a universe and a multiverse again, which they're talking about again the many crises throughout DC's history. But then they say that Perpetua's children would die and reform in many ways, but she remained locked away for billions of years inside the Source Wall. But still, they couldn't silence her message that the universe still called for doom for Perpetua, and we see the Legion of Doom, that they're enacting her vision and her views, and that they're essentially representing the goals that she had for doom and destruction. And she's proud of the Legion of Doom here, and it says that she will show her children the way. She will save them all. Then Perpetua says, and so it begins. And the next chapter is actually called Fear the Future. So we're probably going to go back into the sixth dimensional story, which this is a part of, but the one with the World Forger and the Justice League and that seemingly future Justice League from the sixth dimension future. We're probably going to go back into that next. I'm excited. I thought this issue was solid. The artwork was amazing. I thought it was great that they fit so many story elements into 17 pages of a book with fantastic art. I mean, we got retcons, they added to the history, they added the characters, they showed us new characters, they references characters to come, and they also pushed this overall story arc forward with this issue in a meaningful way. And like I said, Tenian and Manapau did that in 17 pages, and they also retold us the events, told us for the first time the events of the first crisis, all while doing all that other stuff. And that's pretty talented, and I thought this book was really good. I ultimately gave it a 10 out of 10 on my written review that I did for comicbookcorpse.com. Yeah, that's my general takeaway from this issue. Thought it was great. 10 out of 10. I'm Kelly One Shot. Take care, have a great day, and goodbye.